Hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome. This is episode 100 of the Next Block. We really appreciate everyone who has been supporting us over this last, year and a half or so.
two
And
years.
2 years, excuse me, last 2 years. But again, thank you all for tapping in into episode 100. We have a great episode coming on, a core contributor from the base ecosystem building on Velodrome and Aerodrome. So I know y'all excited for this one. Before we begin, how you doing, Crypto for Change?
I'm doing good, man. The markets obviously are pumping. Bitcoin is doing what we need
Yes.
it to do, which is remaining at least strong, not, correcting it. It corrected and now it's already back above, at least the last time I checked, like 70 something K. So that's solid because that gives alts, the room to run, right? We
Yep.
need Bitcoin to behave so that altcoins and a lot of what's been being built in this space that liquidity can trickle down. And we are seeing that happen right now. The bull market is in full swing. I know for a lot of our
100%.
holders, Algorand is not really, catching up like we'd like it to. But, I was talking to Tony from Thinking Crypto yesterday, and, he was talking about on his live show today is meme coins have really taken such a big spotlight that I think that's the reason why some of these bigger, more established chains, Cardano, HBAR, Algorand, Near, some of those are not really running like they could. And that's because so much liquidity people are just chasing because it's a casino right now.
Yeah.
But there are
Casino
still
time.
exactly, but there are a lot of solid projects, that we've been watching, we've been invested in, watching grow. Let's pull up some charts too, because obviously we're going to be talking about Velodrome and Aerodrome. Those are two of them that if you've been following our calls on those, we were telling you to buy. Way back when Aerodrome was like 5 cents, 4 cents, Velodrome was like six, seven
I'll start
cents.
with let's start with Velo.
Yeah. And Velodrome, I think it's popped again. Yeah, it's up to like 29 cents. So we're starting to see, I think, the market take more notice of the super chain narrative. So
Mhm.
Base was taking so much excitement and over the past few weeks. And that's why we saw Aerodrome just run crazy. And now I feel like people are starting to see this, the super chain idea with optimism and Base. And that's why I think you're going to start to see Velodrome start to catch up in regards to where its price action is currently, and price action is only half the discussion, because really the meat of the discussion that we're going to get into today with these protocols is what they're actually doing to really compete with the giants, the Curve, the Aave,
Mhm.
the Compound, the Uniswaps of the Ethereum and of the world right now, and really see what this next version of DeFi is going to look like for new people entering the market. So good morning to everybody as well in the chat.
Yes, definitely. Good morning. And it's always great to see the crypto market cap approaching 3 trillion. You see it
Mm.
up at the top. It is definitely growing. Bitcoin has been holding the 70,000 real steady, which again, that brings people like Larry Fink, all the Black Rocks, and all the big contributors around. Everyone's excited. More people are building. And then, again, as we always talk about every week, starting to get more calls about people asking about crypto. So I think it's about that time,
Are
and
they
that's always
buying or are they just
exciting.
asking? Because I'm still getting
Well,
people who are just asking, but they're still not buying. I think they're still
I'm getting
nervous,
a
maybe.
I'm getting a little both because one of the family members was like they bought a little crypto a while ago and then it did a double for them, so now
Uh-oh.
they're hooked. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They was like, oh, so they're coming back around. Yeah, but about half and half. Some asking, should I still buy, and the others is like, hey, what I did buy went crazy. But let me shout out, hello everyday Algonaut. Ryan was good. Cloudy vibes. Ace the book. Thank you for tapping in, and everyone else on Twitter. Thank you all for tapping in and showing up every week.
Yeah,
All
let's look
right.
at the arrow chart too, because I know if y'all been following us on our aerodrome calls, y'all made. I mean, that thing is it's a massive like 100x. If you were getting
Oh
in
man,
at the prices when we were calling it out. I mean, that thing, and I don't even know if
like
we'll see if
crazy.
CoinGecko will show, because I know a lot of things weren't really tracking it, but it was down near 3 to 7 cents and consolidating under there before you really got this. Obviously, I think the first little blip there is when and probably back close to January 22nd. That's when Coinbase announced, no, even further back. That's when Coinbase announced that it was going to get listed. And then the really big violent move you're seeing now was after Coinbase Ventures kind of got behind it as well, which is another bullish case for this one. So I still think there's tons of room to run. I mean, the current market cap on this one, where is that at? What are we looking at? Oh, 624, million. I think the fully diluted, is 1.5 billion. So it's definitely starting to get some big attention. But like I said, if the bull market Bitcoin continues to behave into the halving, alts like this, we could continue to see take big strides towards competing against some of the giants like Uniswap, Curve, and I'm excited to learn from Alex, our guest, what he thinks.
Most definitely.
Why things like Aerodrome and Velodrome really do stand a chance, in this coming bull market.
I'll put up one more that is also getting a lot of attention is Moonwell.
Yeah, so, and this one has not been listed by Coinbase yet.
No,
but some of the, I guess you could say, go ahead.
No, I'll say if you're in the Moonwell community, what's good? Ace the book again. Everyone tap in. Let us know if you got access to Moonwell. We would love to talk to them on the show as well.
Oh yeah. And one of the, I think I could actually get the founder behind it. He actually, I'm pretty sure, worked at Coinbase and was part of their help Coinbase do their staking program. And now he's building Moonwell on Base. So there's a lot of connections. So I, obviously not financial advice. I am betting and I'm hoping that Coinbase lists Moonwell as an asset. I don't know if Coinbase Ventures is going to get behind it. So I'm, there's no idea if it's going to do what Aerodrome did as far as price action. But hey, if it's a bull market, I always say anything is possible right now with some of these tokens, especially because Moonwell, I don't know if you had that tweet pulled up, they just crossed 100 million in TVL, total volume locked on their application. So that's huge as well.
Let me pull that up.
And go ahead, and while you're pulling that up, I'm going to answer Ryan's question in the comments. Says, the more ETH I put into Reaper, the more airdrop I get. You would be correct. If you've been following us over on Base and on Warpcast, we are having some fun in the Base ecosystem, and we will be launching Reaper Coin, which is a meme. So, go check our socials. You can find out more information there. But yeah, the more you contribute proportionally, the more you would get back once the crowdfund ends. But
so definitely, we'll talk to y'all more about that towards the end of the show. We got about a day left over there. So without further ado, let's bring on Alexander. He's a core contributor to the Velodrome and Aerodrome platforms. Alexander, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Good to see you both.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. And as someone who I've been following your tweets and your discourse just on Twitter and on Warpcast, I saw Ryan said in the comments I had to pay for Warpcast. It is worth it because that's where the alpha gets dropped. So don't worry about that.
Yes.
But yeah, I've been following you for
Warpcast
a while.
Is dope.
Yeah, and thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm excited to learn more about Aerodrome and Velodrome. Our show really started, focused on the Algorand blockchain because it was so cheap and easy to kind of onboard people, and they didn't have to worry about high Ethereum fees, a year and a half ago, when we were doing that. So, really reaching out to Optimism and Base has been new for us and new for a lot of our audience. But, we can't fade that Ethereum is looking to scale. And it seems like so far that I've noticed on Base that it's working, right? Fees have not been as high. And I've not dabbled as much in Optimism yet, but I've used Velodrome and Aerodrome. But before we hop too deep into them, kind of tell the audience, what got you into the crypto space and to build on these two platforms. And were you just an ETH maxi all the way through before? Were you somewhere else building? What's your history there?
Yeah. So, I've, I guess like a lot of people you end up meeting in crypto or DeFi, I've had kind of a very twisty, turny professional journey, I guess you could say. I initially got my start working in politics and campaigns, got a little burnt out working on that, went to work in tech for a period. Needed a change there, went and did some sort of like boutique consulting. And it was, about 6 years or so into that job. DeFi summer was popping off. I think I was pretty sick and tired of my job. And my good friend, Jason Hitchcock, pulls me aside and goes, I'm quitting my job. All I'm doing is DeFi. I could retire today. And,
Wow.
you know, that was just like what I needed to hear in that exact moment. Up until that point, you know, whenever Jason or any of my friends talk to me about crypto, about Bitcoin, I'm just like, none of this makes any sense to me. You know, where's the army to back the value of these things? You know, it's not computing.
Right.
But
The
that
army is memes, right? No.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that was the thing that got me, you know, running down the rabbit hole, right? And like all of us, you know, it just started with, you know, buying some tokens and then taking those tokens on chain and going, all right, well, what can I do with these? And depositing into you know, liquidity positions, borrowing against them, doing other things with it, locking tokens in the curve and convex ecosystem, voting for incentives in exchange for like my participation in this like decentralized institution. And I think the minute that you started to feel the opportunity in this space, and you know, it's not just the direct financial opportunity, although that is certainly part of it. That's part of the incentive structure. But seeing the way in which things that in the traditional world require large, sophisticated, heavy businesses, large, sophisticated, heavy institutions were just being boiled down to software and incentives. And by virtue of eliminating all of that weight, right, all of that overhead associated with that business or institution, you distribute all the value that it creates to all of the participants. And as soon as I felt that, right, I can just be a part of something. I can dip in and out whenever I want. And by virtue of being part of it, I can be rewarded for that. You know, there was just no turning back. And so I quit my job. I didn't know what I was going to do other than fuck around at DeFi. And started doing that. And before you know it, you know, I started meeting a ton of people. Heard you guys reference Ace a few times. Jason connected me to Ace. Ace connected me to this DAO that was a part of the initial launch of Solidly on Phantom. I met a bunch of guys that way. And before I knew it, we were launching a protocol, launching a second protocol. And yeah, I mean, now, you know, Aerodrome's one of the top 10 dexes in the world. And so
that's
huge. Pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I wouldn't even, you know, this is a part of, you know, just being in this space is wild because the people you meet along the way are complete strangers. Like I have friends now across the world that I never would have met before that literally one of them told me about like, hey, I'm starting to do some due diligence on Velodrome and Aerodrome. I really like the play here. And he, you know, gave me a little bit of what he thought. I went and did my own research. Like, you know what, this definitely does seem like, you know, a winner. And, you know, and shout out to the people who are out here making those connections, right, and telling people about new things, because Aerodrome's rise, and I would assume very soon to be Velodrome's rise in the charts, is due to just the fact that they have been building some really cool things and rewarding people a lot of money for participating early. I mean, if you were, I will say, I think the last bull market, because this is like, you know, my first full cycle, bull to bear to now back to bull, last bull market kind of, you know, it made me nervous, right, to want to lock tokens, especially for a long period, because I had locked a lot of things and then I wasn't able to withdraw and the bear market hit and I lost a lot of value. And so, but to see what Velodrome has done with the V NFTs or the V Velo NFTs and how you can still have some liquidity there to pull out if you need, like, it's just cool. So, you know, I'm excited. Let's first, you know, I feel like let's talk about Velodrome, because I feel like Velodrome was created first, right?
Yeah.
All right. So tell us like what Velodrome is and what it's like, what specific current platforms on Ethereum is it trying to disrupt and change the game for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best way to think about Velodrome is as a metadex. And what we mean by a metadex is that it combines some of the best DEX primitives from basically from the last cycle, right? From some of the most successful models that you saw out there, brings them all together into one streamlined design, into one single layer, and aligns incentives very well for all participants. So what do I mean by that? You could say the MetaDex combines sort of the best parts of Curve, right? They're sort of really efficient, stable swap mechanism. It combines the best parts of Convex, which is sort of like a vote and incentive aggregation on top of Curve. Vodium, which is the ability to automate your sort of like voting processes, auto compound rewards. UniV2, which is still, I think, sort of the king AMM, even with V3 out there. You know, most pools, most protocols still benefit tremendously from V2 style pools, and now UniV3. So that is like, if you go out there and you want to use all of those, you know, you're talking about interacting with 5 different protocols, different tokenomics, each piece maybe taking a bit of a extra fee on top or layering another token on top, and all of this complexity, right? So what if you took all of those elements, you combined it into one single protocol, one single token, all of the sort of rewards generated by that system, 100% of them just flow back to that token. That token is distributed to LPs, and I think it just creates a very, very clean, very, very streamlined system. And I think that that's why it's seeing so much success, right? It's taking all the best parts of everything that's out there, pulling them all together and aligning incentives in a really optimal way.
Yeah, and as you scroll down a little bit there, see, Will, just so we can see how that, because I've also seen this tag in this, and you can maybe explain it better than I can, the VV3, right? And what that means, and also with this diagram of how liquidity moves through the Velodrome ecosystem, because Aerodrome is, from what I can know, it's literally the same thing. It's just built on Base, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So explain what this is and how people and how everyone is contributing into it, and how the liquidity kind of moves through the platform and rewards, you know, issuers of the VVelo NFTs and whatnot.
Yeah, you've got it. So, you know, I think the best starting place is often, you know, if folks are familiar with the Curve system and with VE tokenomics, like that's probably a good place to start, right? Curve was really the pioneer here. And what Curve said is we're going to emit our governance token, CRV, to liquidity providers. And those liquidity providers, you know, can do what they want with that token. You know, they can certainly go exchange it for something else, or they can take it, they can lock it as VECRV. And what you get to do as part of that is choose where the emissions go each week, right? So does a whole bunch of emissions go to the Curve 3 pool, or does it go to a DAI pool, or you know, at one point a Luna pool, or all that sort of stuff, right? You are choosing where the emissions go. Where the emissions go is where the liquidity will grow, and then that's going to generate the fees. So that's the starting point, right? Is that we have an emissions-based structure where each week there's a number of tokens minted by sort of an immutable schedule. And where those tokens go is decided by the voters. So they distribute them through their votes each week. The incentive for them to distribute them is that they earn back all of the rewards that are generated by those pools, right? So if a pool does $100,000 worth of fees, right, you're, by voting for that, going to earn back a proportional share of those fees. If another protocol comes in and wants to incentivize your voting on their pair, you're going to earn a proportional share of those incentives back. And so basically, it creates this flywheel effect, which is sort of what you're seeing here. Protocols are depositing in incentives to voters. Fees are flowing to voters. Voters are then incentivized to allocate their votes efficiently, right? Only the most productive pools in the system are going to get the most votes. And this is a big difference with Curve. With Curve, it doesn't matter if you vote for a pool that generates $1,000 in fees or $100,000 in fees. You get the same sort of socialized rewards at the end of the process. This system's built to be reflexive. It's saying you're only going to get emissions if you are generating enough value that voters vote for you. And so the more fees and incentives go to that pool, the more emissions it gets, the more the liquidity in that pool grows, the more fees it generates. And so this just creates that kind of like growth flywheel that I think you're seeing on Velodrome and Aerodrome, where through no centralized action, no centralized participant, purely through the self-optimization that the incentives create, the best pools are getting the most emissions. That's growing these ecosystems significantly and just creating, I think, a very positive sum game.
Yeah, and I think, let's see, can we go to the dApp where it actually shows you the pools?
Yeah.
Or do we have to connect, or can you go to it?
Let me see. Internet may be being a little slow. Hold on.
Yeah, liquidity should pop up here.
Okay.
To see the other tabs, you'd have to connect in, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. Give me a moment. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, while he's bringing that up, and you guys also, I mean, from what I've seen posted from Velodrome and Aerodrome, I mean, the level of rewards that are being dished out on Velodrome and Aerodrome are like massive compared to what Curve and what a lot of these other platforms, and even massive now compared to where those platforms, what they were doing in the top of the last bull market. So, I don't know. It definitely has me excited as an Aerodrome, as an Aero holder and a Velo holder, participating in these networks. It just blows my mind. Why do you think we're seeing such big rewards, that we are not seeing in those other, more legacy platforms, I guess?
Yeah, I think, it's a few things. So if you think back, for anybody who was there at the launch of Solidly, right? And we are basically an evolution of Solidly. Mm-hmm. And Solidly was launched by Andre Cronje, who is, of course, one of the, godfathers of DeFi, right?
Yeah.
And when he launched Solidly, and everyone was, digging into his medium and white paper, right? The basic idea was that if you could have one DEX that does the best of Uniswap, Curve, and Convex all in one, then yes, I mean, it makes sense, right? That the impact of that could be equal to or greater than all of them combined. And that's really powerful, because what's happened like on like mainnet Ethereum and elsewhere is it's almost just like Uniswap's going to take a big chunk of the pie. That's all the fees directly to LPs. It's very optimal for some cases. And then Curve's going to take another chunk of the pie, very optimal for another set of use cases. Now, if you can roll all of that activity, all of that volume into one single model, I think the opportunity for value creation is substantial. And so I think that's one aspect of it. Is I think Solidly, the Solidly vision, right, by Andre, is very much being realized, that you don't need 5 different DEXs to, I guess, achieve something like this. You can do it all in one. And then it comes down to a few, I think, very specific tokenomics pieces. Most protocols you see out there and indexes will slice and dice the rewards that are generated a million different ways, right? They might take 5%, they'll send that straight to the team, right? And the team says, thank you, that's our cut in exchange for doing the work. On Curve, they'll split it. Half of the fees go to the liquidity providers, half of the fees go to the DAO, right? And you'll see a bunch of different combinations of this. And of course, Uniswap, where all of the fees go to the LPs, none of them are going to the token, very famously. But the beauty of our model, I think, is that there is no slicing and dicing. It is just very simple. 100% of the rewards go back to the token, to token participants as incentives, right? It's not like a passive thing. You have to participate, but they go to lockers. There's no slicing, there's no dicing, there's no redirecting things. And so it's really powerful if you think about everything that Uniswap does, everything that Curve does, but with the fee switch turned to 100% and totally immutable. I think that's really where the power comes in. And then you amplify that with that sort of optimizing for efficiency thing, where the highest producing things are going to get more rewards and create even more rewards from them. And it just becomes a very powerful flywheel.
Yeah.
And can you speak on the concentrated liquidity and then the NFT structure in there? Because I think that is very interesting. And I'm seeing new chains are starting to do this more.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like we know, of course, that the concentrated liquidity model introduced by Uniswap v3 is highly efficient, right? Like if you've got super high volume pairs, right, in the Optimism ecosystem, it would be things like your OP wrapped ETH, your OP USDC, wrapped ETH USDC, DAI wrapped ETH, etc. I mean, these are tokens with mass adoption, with professionals providing liquidity, professionals trading. So they'll do millions and millions in volume. And if you're able to concentrate that liquidity, you get much better outcomes for traders, right? Much lower slippage. So you get just exponentially more volume. That volume might not always drive the same sort of like fee generation or things like that, but it makes up for that in just the raw amount of volume that it can create. So if you look at like Optimism or Base right now, what you see is that the vast majority of liquidity lives on Velodrome and Aerodrome. But on that handful of like super high volume pairs, most of the volume still flowing through to Uniswap. That doesn't mean most of the rewards are being created there, but most of the volume is flowing there. So what we've recently introduced is Slipstream, which is our sort of novel take on concentrated liquidity based off of Uni v3. And that basically adds, another puzzle piece into this, comprehensive liquidity solution that we're offering. So that's just starting to ramp up on Velodrome. But I think what you're already seeing, right, before we've even had protocols shift their incentives over, shift their votes over. So this is like very much minimum viable product right now. Is Slipstream alone now is the third highest volume DEX on Optimism. It's beating Curve, it's beating Balancer, it's got barely any TVL, it's got only one aggregator integrated into it. And so if you think about the TVL differential, which is like 4 times more TVL on Aerodrome than Uniswap, and you think about just concentrating that a little bit, you can see the way in which Velodrome might have the opportunity to do the thing that no other DEX has been able to do yet, which is actually steal those volumes away from Uniswap and into a model where rewards are distributed versus just passed through to liquidity providers.
Yeah, I mean,
that is huge.
Yeah, we're going to take an ad break. I mean, the crazy thing to me, and I feel like the reason why, watching Aerodrome, I feel obviously Aerodrome is having maybe more attention because of the obviously Coinbase listing, and then Coinbase Ventures literally saying they're going to get behind it. So that drags a lot of eyes. And then you also have, it's kind of, to a lot of people that would hate this, meme season has really drove volume to where the chains are. Like obviously Solana has just blown up and is still blowing up with memes. Base is starting to have its own meme season and things are popping up left and right. And Optimism, though, it has still, like, at least from what I've seen, hasn't had that reaction yet. And what I want to dive into once we come back from the ad break is this whole super chain narrative that is coming up more and more, and what you think that could actually play in Velodrome and Aerodrome's rise to being the top DEX as used. So let's take an ad break and then we'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are in episode 100, so make sure you smash that like button. Appreciate y'all for all tapping in. Those are ads from our sponsors. Big shout out to Non-Fungible Domains, Examarket, Gora, and Lofty AI. So we'll pass it back to you, Alexander. Can you talk about the superchain narrative and what's happening over there?
And also, big shout out to, I see Base God in the chat. Shout out to Base God. That's one of the big meme coin communities that is over on Base. I have some, thank you, Base God, in my wallet and am bullish on what you guys are building. So I just love the vibes on Base. If you also want to talk about some Aerodrome as well, feel free. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into this whole super chain idea.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm big fan of Base God as well. Jesse describes it as the religion of Base, and I guess I am fully converted.
Religion of
yeah,
Base.
I say the
I'm
memes have
converted
power.
too.
Yeah, memes have power, and the memes from Base God and all the some of the bigger ones out there, Toshi and Mochi and Degen. Obviously, it's been a lot of fun for sure seeing some of these communities rise up. But
yeah, but let's talk superchain. So I mean, superchain basically just comes down to the question of how do we scale Ethereum, right? If you are a believer in the Ethereum vision, the decentralized ethos of it, we know and have known for a long time that for us to reach kind of critical mass, right, for it to truly be like the language of a new financial system, as well as any number of other potential use cases that it needs to scale. And we've known for a long time that a big part of that scaling will come through layer 2 chains, right, that are building on top of Ethereum and sharing a degree of the security assumptions associated with Ethereum, but bring that sort of speed, that user experience, application specific chains, right, that can really optimize for particular use cases, et cetera, et cetera. But the challenge with that, as we all know, is fragmentation. We, for this system to work, we need like the deepest pools in the world, right? Deeply accessible no matter where you are. We don't need to split that onto 50 different chains. If you want to interact with great applications, games, things like that, you don't want to be bridging between 50 different ecosystems in order to be able to access that. So the vision of the super chain is essentially we're going to build an interconnected set of chains. Some of those chains will likely be very much generalizable blockchains, like the ones that we've seen from Optimism, Mainnet, Base, Mode, and others. And they're all going to have their particular flavor, right? Base is where Coinbase is going to onboard users and integrate their products deeply. Mode is an exciting one, kind of in a blast model, right, where it's all about taking all of the value creation and redistributing it to the people who are a part of creating it. Then you've got folks like Zora, right, very focused on NFTs. Fractal has an incredible vision, if you've seen what Frax has been talking about in the last week, for how they want to grow and scale. But we need these things to all sort of connect together very seamlessly, and that's where the super chain comes in. It starts by they all operate on the same fundamental technology stack. The idea of building interoperability is much more difficult if you're not all building off of the same foundations. So that's already solving one of the problems. If you guys watched the 4844 upgrade, I think one of the coolest things about it was that at the exact same time, every chain building on OP stack, right, who's opted into the super chain, because you can fork it, do your own thing as well. But if you've opted into the super chain, you got that upgrade at the exact same time. And it was the Base team and Coinbase's engineers working on that. It was OP Labs team. It was a bunch of other super chains contributors working on that. But everybody got the upgrade at the exact same time. So that's very exciting. We're all operating on the same tech stack. It's not going to change. Then it's about the interoperability technology between them, right? And the goal is that over time, whether or not you've got like a chain, and one of the first demos for this was like Minecraft on chain, built on an OP stack, right? You could have that degree of specialization. You could tweak the parameters to make it optimal for that, but you want it to feel as cohesive as using the internet, where you don't know if you're jumping between different protocols or different structures, right? It should all be abstracted away. And so that's the vision with the super chain, is that we're going to progressively get closer to the state where you won't know if you're on Base, OP mainnet, Zora, Fractal mode, or anything else. It just feels seamless and interoperable. And another very cool thing about it, in my mind, is that basically the deal between these chains and the broader Optimism collective is that they contribute a share of their sequencer revenue back to the collective, right? So, something like 15% of the total sequencer revenue on Base is going towards going to the collective, and that'll be every super chain. And if you imagine the network effects of this, hundreds of super chains connected together, that is a ton of revenue going back to the collective. Now, what do they do with it? It all goes towards public goods funding, retroactive public goods funding. And one thing that I think we know from the last big explosion of alternative layer ones is that funding is very important. You can get a lot of users, a lot of builders, a lot of activity through funding. But what you saw in the alt layer one was, well, that works until the funding goes away.
Exactly.
And that funding is pretty much just probably the investment side backing, right?
Yeah.
That token until they invested and dumped or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yep.
And so the most exciting thing about the public goods funding on the Optimism side is that is a sustainable mechanism. That is saying basically the more activity on these chains, the more funding is going to be created to fund more activity on these chains. This isn't just token allocations and VC backing sort of value flowing into the ecosystem until it's gone. It's value being created by those ecosystems being recycled back into them. And I think that's super exciting. And Optimism, just announced their kind of big overhaul of the program and a massive commitment, right, in OP tokens to sort of bootstrap this. And that, I think, just makes it a very, very exciting place to be building, whether you're on OP mainnet, whether you're on Base or anywhere else.
Yeah, and coming from someone in the Algorand community, Algorand is actually, a lot of the people in the community are pushing the Algorand Foundation and trying to get them to take a more retroactive goods approach to governance and to allocating resources, because Algorand was one of those alt layer one chains that took had the VC backing, had the money and the last bull run, spent all those tokens, just really throwing it out to anyone that was willing to build, like a lot of chains were, right? You wanted to attract developers. And now, and during the bear market, they kind of went broke. They made a lot of bad deals, a lot of shady deals that ended up biting them in the butt. And now they're with the little bit of algo they have left in the treasury over the coming 5 years, now they're having to be really selective. And like I said, a lot of the core contributors in Algorand's space, a lot of the builders that are left are saying, hey, we need to go to a retroactive goods model like Optimism has, because people need to show value before we just give them money. They need to build something. And that is so true this bull run. And I think that's why you're going to see a lot cooler things get built, because it's not going to be so much just grant harvesting and people just looking for free handouts. You got to bring the goods to get the goods, right? Yeah. Although I will say, and you did point out some of the things in the retro one of the last disbursements of OP, that there are still some ways to maybe finagle and get large amounts of, and maybe not be bringing as good of an on-chain service. So there is still some kinks to be worked out in that model.
Yeah, it's Optimism has described this, very much as a grand experiment, right? The genesis of this was blog post by Vitalik, where he said it's so much easier to reward impact retroactively than proactively. And that's even if you assume best intent across the board, right? No malicious players, right?
Yeah.
Picking winners is very hard. If it was easy, everybody can make insane amounts of money all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
And you have to think most of these people that are building these applications, probably like yourself, they just quit their job and then they're getting maybe a large sum of money up front to just build something. And most people have never managed that level of money, whether it be risk. And that's what wrecked a lot of people in the last bear market is a lot of people maybe held their treasury of what their project was building in a token that lost 60, 70, 80, maybe 90% of value and got completely wrecked. And so, you have to take the retroactive stance, I think, is the stance moving forward. And so it's interesting to kind of be, more in the light and seeing what Optimism's doing. One question I would have, maybe some speculation, right? Ethereum is trying to scale. Obviously, Base, I've been using it, and the fees when that upgrade went through got cut to like a penny. Then we saw, a lot of activity flood into the Base chain, and I saw fees starting to creep back to 5, 15. I mean, I was like, what's going on? I thought we were supposed to, be past this. One, where do you think we are with scaling Ethereum with the layer 2s? And what, how soon do you think, this is more speculative, but how soon do you think we could see Optimism and Base and the superchain idea overtake some of the L2s that are commanding the space now in Arbitrum and Polygon and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, how nuts was it, right? 4844 ships. And the first thing everybody starts to see and hear is transactions on layer 2 Ethereum are cheaper than Solana, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, this giant, selling case for going to an entirely different kind of system, which has pros and cons, right, is gone. And I don't think any of us expected it to be instantaneous. But in the case of Base, it was literally instantaneous. I don't know if users just heard what they needed to hear. I don't know if people on Solana were just sick of being rugged. I don't know what it was. But they're
tired of staring at that wheel, spinning, hoping their transaction was about to go through.
Yeah. But it was exponential. And if you talk to Jesse, one of the things he'll tell you is that Base every consecutive month has blown way past their targets for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, right? So this is happening faster than they could have possibly expected. And I think the post 4844 inflows of capital and activity was exponential in a way that they did not see coming. So great problem to have, but it basically shifted, I think, their priority. I mean, their priority was already to get to that sub-cent transaction level, but it upped the urgency even more to get those scaling solutions in place. So they've already made one adjustment. There's another one coming very soon, and then they've got some more medium-term stuff. Check out Jesse's profile if you haven't already. He's got a brilliant kind of technical write-up on this. I think they can stretch a lot farther, even where we are right now, than where we are now. But anything that's truly exponential across L2s, really start seeing some major consumer applications, starting to see institutions build products on chain. That is where that sort of super chain scalability is going to be the critical thing, that you can carve off your portion of the super chain, optimize it for a social app like Farcaster, a crazy thing like WorldCoin, and you can build it for scale while still participating, in this overall thing. And so, I think it's within a few years. But in terms of when will this sort of stuff become absolutely triumphant in the L2 space? I think very soon.
What I like about it is there's no token to buy on Base, so you still are using the Ethereum network. Coinbase has the brand name that makes me personally very comfortable. And then when I finally we started really using the Coinbase wallet, I was like, oh, it's it. It has everything that I need in there, and the interoperability, as you described this whole time, is amazing.
Well, they also have the new thing, and I don't know if you know much about it, Alex. Obviously, a lot of the technical stuff goes above my head, even though there are great people like yourself who can break it down in tweets, and I can understand it better. But the embedded wallets is also something that Coinbase are being built on Coinbase base layer that could help onboard a lot of people. And that's where, that's what made me ultimately choose Algorand when I first kind of got into the space. I was on Ethereum. I was getting so frustrated with someone would tell me, hey, go buy this token, it's going to moon. And I'd want to go buy $100 of it. And the fee was going to be $40 on Uniswap for me to get it. And so I kind of got turned off to that, went to try to, the whole alt layer one. Then I kind of come back now with Base, and I'm like, it just seems like, how can Base not become what Binance Smart Chain was when Binance took its rise? Like, that's where my thought immediately goes. And it is interesting because Base does not have its own token, right? I mean, it's built on the OP stack, the OP super chain idea, but it doesn't have and it's not like Optimism where you can, hold OP or swap it for something. Most things, and that's why I think you see so many meme coins on Base kind of taking, or I'll even say a lot of them are community coins, like a DGen or like a Toshi, which Toshi has an interesting play behind it. I didn't realize this, but apparently Toshi was the name of Coinbase wallet before they rebranded it. It was called Toshi, and so is what I'm hearing through the grapevine. So because that's the name of Brian Armstrong's cat, and he has another one. But it's kind of interesting, maybe that maybe a community coin will become this de facto coin that is a main pair. Or maybe Coinbase just surprises us all and they're like, hey, if you've been buying our NFT mints and using the network over the past 6 months, you're getting airdropped the new Base token. I mean, who knows what they're going to do?
Wow. Yeah. Can you also speak on the mode network? But go ahead.
Quickly on that. I mean, I think that the beauty of what Coinbase is doing is they've got their gas token and it's Ethereum, and that's great, right? And they've got their governance token, and that's OP, because OP is what's going to govern the upgrades to the chain itself. OP is going to govern governance grants, that can extend onto Base. It's going to be a part of governing retroactive public goods funding that'll flow to Base. So that there's your governance token. And thank God Jesse doesn't have to spend any of his day thinking about governance. We don't want him focused on that. Exactly. We want him focused on growing Base. And we all know that governance can be a bottomless pit of despair. So they've outsourced that, right? So what's the one piece that's missing there is the ecosystem incentivization token. And that is where we fit in. Because each week, when we were talking about the model, and those emissions, right, that we're minting and distributing to the ecosystem. That is functionally, I think like the value of the last round of emissions of rewards, was something around $20 million worth of arrow flowing out there. And that is $20 million in direct economic stimulus into the ecosystem, to users, to projects, to builders. And, that is probably more on a weekly basis than all of the Optimism grants programs happening on OP mainnet are distributing in a single week time frame on Optimism. And so it's incredible the way in which without themselves launching and adopting a token, taking all the risk and overhead associated with that, they've solved the three problems that primarily those tokens usually solve in ecosystems, which is gas, governance, and incentivization with three tokens, right? And I think that's very, very cool. Very, very cool to see. And my personal opinion is after fault proofs after they ship on OP stack, they're in beta right now, so we're very, very close. It's on testnet. That's going to be the moment for massive liquidity migration from layer one onto chains. It's also going to give institutions more security to deposit onto networks like Base. I think if not before, after, that's when Base is going to be the number one L2 on Ethereum. And You know,
that got me excited. I'm like,
we
let's
can talk
go.
again in 6 months, but I think it's
we
not
will.
close.
Yeah, we will.
And I don't think people have realized it. I think this space, what I've learned about it is it has a very kind of like last 3 months to now focus, right? It's like the narratives, the people like saying who's winning, who's losing. It's like so focused, slightly looking back and on the metrics today. And I think if you can just see a little bit ahead of the curve, it represents massive opportunity. And you know, I love my dear friends on Arbitrum, but like I don't think they've realized what's coming.
And you just have to look at, like, from a macro standpoint, just seeing what's happened with with the SEC and their attack and push to really kind of bring Binance down, and like, as as the largest exchange, even though they still are in terms of volume, but Coinbase is obviously wanting to move in and become the de facto Coinbase exchange of the world, and they want to have that market share, and they obviously always talk about bringing the next billion users on chain, and where do you think they're going to do that? Right? Like, I mean, it's like, to me, it's like the writing has been on the walls. I've been in Discords the past 3-4 months. I was saying, hey, you guys should start. Most of them were aping Solana. They're still aping Solana meme coins and stuff. But I'm like, you really need to start taking a look at Coinbase and base layer, because so many things are popping up. So many cool things are being built there, like with Farcaster. And I love the whole social aspect of Warpcast and the frames and so much of the stuff that's getting built over there. Honestly, it's been like a refreshing take on social media. Like, I'm on Warpcast way more, I think, than I am Twitter. Now I'm just really just going back and checking notifications on Twitter and just seeing if I'm missing anything. But mostly I'm just enjoying Warpcast and enjoying the community and vibing over there, because Base is on fire. Optimism, I think, is going to be right behind it as far as, like, getting that liquidity and gaining that traction. And soon, I think, you will see Base and Optimism as the main layer 2 for Ethereum. And I think that holds true as long as these upgrades that they're doing can, scale Ethereum correctly and keep fees low and keep the network up. Because I do remember when Coinbase first launched Base, or when they first launched Base, it went down, right? And that kind of was like, can it stay up? And I know that's been the harboring thing for Solana, is, can Solana stay online? And I think that still is the, coming from a lot of chains that maybe haven't had downtime or very limited, as these next billion users come on chain, can the chain stay working?
Yeah. I tweeted something this week, which was to the extent of, like, when Coinbase says they're looking to bring their entire business on chain, like, take them seriously. I can't quote it as well as some of my friends at Coinbase, but this was always kind of the vision, right? It was like, first it's the place to trade Bitcoin, then Ethereum, then all crypto assets, right? And then it's like fully on, like, we're moving fully on chain. Like, this is just not we don't want to be a front end to the chain. Like we want to bring people into this entirely new digital financial system. And this week we saw, for the first time, they announced that they are bringing more of their USDC, like their customer funds, on chain, right? And this is the first.
Huge.
This is the first little hint, I think, of what's just going to be the tip of the iceberg in terms of them coming on chain, bringing their business on chain. And there's nobody else who can do this. And I think that's where it gets really exciting. I think it's not going to be them. It's going to be them and all of their friends. Who's storing all the BlackRock Bitcoin?
Exactly.
They've got friends everywhere. You think they're not telling them, why don't you guys come over and store all your ETH on Base after the ETF? It's like, to me, it's crystal clear. Nobody else has a similar vision. Just like I think nobody else has a similar vision around the type of super chain evolution. And, that just makes me unbelievably excited.
Yeah. And where do you see, let's talk speculation if you want. Where do you see, at the, as this bull market really gets near, ramping, like, say, tip of the iceberg type stuff, Aerodrome and Velodrome competing against the Uniswaps and obviously the curve and everything like that. I mean, could we see an Aero and Velo in the top 25 of all altcoins and really see that level push this early? Or what are your thoughts there? Where do you see Aero and Velo going?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When we launched Velodrome, we literally launched the week of the Luna collapse.
Oh wow!
Born in a bear market, the bear market.
Yeah, like straight into the black swan, right? And we did it with a liquid token airdrop, if you can imagine. At the exact time, people were just emptying every token out of their wallets, right? Moving out as fast as they possibly could. And I think at that point, and we also, I should say, we never raised any money. We never sold a token. This was 100% self-bootstrapped. The only way we work is if the whole system works, right? There's no sort of lifeline or anything that we could fall back on. And so our vision was, we believed, in the foundations that Andre built, right? We did truly believe. At that point, the market, I think, had abandoned it because solidly kind of collapsed. Andre quit. It's great to see Andre back, but Andre took a vacation, right? So I think for a moment there, people had given up on it. But we believed it truly was that combination of all the best parts. That if you brought it to the right place, yes, absolutely, it could compete with Curve, it could compete with Balancer, it could compete with Uniswap. In fact, maybe it could even do multiples better than those in terms of TVL and volume and all that sort of stuff. So we've always believed it, and the vision was, if we could survive the bear, if we could continue to improve the product, if we could add things like concentrated liquidity, if we could add things like Relay, which is like our sort of version of Vodium, if we could do that all at the base layer, right? Not fracture out the product into 100 different ones. That when activity came back into DeFi, and in particular, when this moment we were betting on, which was L2 explosion, right? And the migration of activity onto L2s, when that came, if we had such a dominant share of the market, that that would be basically the wind in our sails. And so, we had this moment, this week where on Aerodrome, as you set up at the beginning, right? $5 million in voting rewards in 1 week. So fees and incentives on $5 million. And if you go back to the absolute peak, 100 billion in TVL, right, on Ethereum mainnet. Every other thread on Twitter is talking about the curve wars, right? Like you can't throw a stone without hitting an influencer talking about the curve wars. At the absolute peak, what Convex was doing at that point, what people were so excited about, was $10 million in weekly rewards. And that was the peak. That wasn't the average.
Oh, we're not even there.
So to see Aerodrome on a chain with $1 billion in TVL, doing basically half of what Convex was doing, the hottest thing in DeFi, it just makes me very optimistic that these systems, that these design decisions we made, these systems work very well. And as DeFi and these ecosystems grow, I hope these systems grow to service them. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, but our bet was always, no matter how hard things were, if we just did the right things, we could play a big role in the future, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And there was one. It was weekly, right? It was the weekly rewards.
Yeah,
weekly. Okay. And just a quick side note, like for velodromes, like how do y'all personally get money other than the optimism rewards or grants?
Yeah, so even the Optimism grants, they don't go to us. Retroactive public goods, that goes to teams, right? Because that's about like rewarding builders. But per our conversation earlier, that was not a lot of money that our products got. So that's kind of been a non-factor so far. But the grants that we do get from Optimism on the Velodrome side, those are just pass-through incentives, right? So those just go back to the ecosystem and people using our platform and things like that. The way in which like the Velodrome Aerodrome foundations sustain themselves is just their own locked voting positions. So this is one of the things I think is so cool, is that we are no different.
And they have those locked for like, I'm pretty sure I saw like 4 years. Like they locked them for the longest they could.
And
so they're committed.
We relock them every week. Those tokens will never vest. They will never hit the market. Those tokens are effectively gone. We just use them to vote like any other VE Velo or VE Aero voter, and to earn rewards based on those votes. And so, you know, rather than having a situation where, oh, you know, the team's incentivized really well until the tokens vest, right? And everybody gets their payout, or or the early buyers, the VCs, are incentivized really well to support it, but maybe they're supporting it so that token gets here when they unlock, and then you know, it can all come down, right? We have none of that. Our incentives entirely align with the long-term health and success of the protocols. Our own locked positions dilute like any others with the ongoing emissions. So we are active token lockers. We lock up more. And we enjoy no privileges, you know, in reward earning that anybody else who locks their tokens doesn't enjoy. And I really like that. It helps me to sleep at night. It feels like the way the way DeFi is supposed to be. That we don't just get a 5%.
Yeah, that's the vision. You know?
We're just participants.
You got to play the game just like everybody else.
Yeah, and so so that's how we're sort of structured.
Yeah.
Can we speak on because I know we have to slowly start to close out, but if you want to throw out anything, is there a roadmap of how Velodrome would expand to become the liquidity hub? I know you talked about a lot of it, but if there's anything else to share.
Yeah. So it's going to be a gradual process. So we've obviously announced our first superchain partner in Mode. I know I didn't get back to the question of tell us about Mode, but Mode's a very exciting L2 built on the OP stack, very much oriented around supporting novel, new, interesting, experimental DeFi. And their whole value prop is, you know, all of that value that's being created is being sent straight back, you know, to the people creating it. So I think it's very exciting. It's kind of similar to what you're seeing on Blast, but I get the sense Mode's maybe a slightly more serious place, but that's just kind of my opinion.
I just got discovered Blast. Interesting.
It's a little interesting over on Blast at the moment. But the plan basically is we will be deploying Velodrome gauges and AMMs to Mode. The sort of voting process, right, that you go through right now, that'll continue to happen on OP mainnet. But if you're like a voter, you can choose to direct emissions to pools on Mode. And then when you earn those rewards, you just claim them on Mode. And so Mode's going to do the same thing Optimism has done, which is they've basically committed to $1 million in matching incentives for anybody incentivizing their liquidity on Mode. So that means you as a voter, you know, you don't have to even like Mode if you don't. You're just going to vote for where the incentives are, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to vote for those incentives. You're going to send emissions over there. You're going to grow liquidity on Mode, and then, you know, claim those rewards on Mode when you're ready. And
it seems like this is the DeFi ecosystems that are really for the people. This is what I got in DeFi for, like straight up. And I was like, damn, this is it. You know, it's good. This is refreshing.
Yes. Yeah. It feels that way. It feels that way. And I feel like Optimism is attracting a lot of those types of people. When you look at all the people who have chosen to build on the OP stack, it seems like there's a lot of values alignment.
Yeah. And I feel like the next big step that a lot of these layer twos really have to push forward in is decentralization in some aspects. I know that's been one critique of optimism, is, there are some centralization issues there. I mean, heck, even even the chain we started our show about, Algorand, there's, a lot of, people had centralization issues there. The network worked, but maybe it's because it was too centralized, and now they're looking to decentralize. And I feel like that's the next big step, is as DeFi grows, and can we get to a truly decentralized network entirely, where the keys of certain chains are not held in within 5, 10, 15 hands, and really getting this this to be the decentralized DeFi of the world. But it's definitely exciting what you guys are doing. And I know, like I said, we're already up on an hour on the show, and I could talk about Base all day. I mean, it's literally been, and I'm sure I could, even Optimism, I know it's going to grow more, and I'm watching Deck Screener and seeing what projects are launching there as well, to see, and doing my due diligence. But we're definitely going to have you back on in the coming months as this race continues, because I think the bull market is just we're about to see some fire. As long as, like I said, as long as we said at the beginning of the show, as long as Bitcoin can do what it needs to do, which is just stay steady, continue the uptrend, then alts, I mean, like Velodrome, just over the past 2 days has shot from 8 cents to 32 cents right now. And Aerodrome obviously ran from 4 cents all the way to $2. I mean, a lot of the, I think if you're bearish right now, I don't know what you're bearish about, because there's builders, the excitement's here, the data is there to back it up. And I really hope we can get Jesse on the show. That would be, someone I'd really like to get from the Base community to talk about what they're doing, because his excitement for the space. I saw a lot of videos him talking at ETH Denver. That's what every chain needs. You need guys like him that are just there to push the agenda of hey, if you're a builder and you want to build something cool on a blockchain, you want to bring more users on chain, we're going to back you.
His tweets are turned up.
Yeah.
Turned up. Yeah. So I enjoy that too. So Jesse, if you're listening right now, make sure you on the show, because we're ready for you. Yes.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to mention, that you're excited about with Aerodrome, Velodrome, or the superchain idea, or anything maybe we hadn't really touched on, that you want to mention before we close out?
No, I think for me right now, the most exciting thing I'm watching, I mean, beyond the incredible weekly rewards growth and all of that sort of stuff, because that is what makes a decentralized system possible, is enough sort of incentives to get that sufficiently decentralized, lots of participants, all that sort of stuff. That's very exciting. But the nut that nobody has cracked is, can anybody unthrone Uniswap on volume? Because none of that value is going to the token. There's lots of issues there, but on volume, right? Can anyone knock them off the throne? And for me personally, I'm going to be watching Slipstream's growth very closely. Next week is when we start turning up the dial, and where we really start to expect to see the TVL shift. And we'll be deploying it to Base in a few weeks as well. And I think in the next month or two, we'll have a really good idea. But if truly, if we can capture kind of everything that Uniswap does, Balancer does, Curve does, all into that single system, we just won't have seen anything like that, right? Plenty of people have taken their shot at Uni. We're trying ours, and we'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun race. I mean, it's I don't know if you have any thoughts on which platform stands the obviously I feel like most people, when they see a name like Coinbase and Coinbase Ventures getting behind Aerodrome, it's like maybe that's the reason why obviously it ran so hard and so fast first. And who's to say that Velodrome still can't be better than what Aerodrome. And so it'll be interesting to see that competition as a duopoly kind of rising to beat Uniswap, right? And really creating the narrative of what I feel like the super chain narrative, which I feel like is starting to get talked about more, but I think it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yes, again, episode 100. Thank you, Alexander, core contributor to Velodrome and Aerodrome. We're going to let you go right now. We have to do our final announcement. But again, I appreciate it. Let's definitely have you back on in a few months' time.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, guys.
Yep. Thank you, man. See you.
Peace.
Exciting episode. So obviously, if you're new to the show, smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe for all future content that we bring out. We are definitely, like I said, we started in the Algorand ecosystem. We're branching out. We're getting more guests from Cardano, from obviously Base, Optimism. So Jesse is going to be the next one. I'm going to be targeting Jesse Pollock to get him on the show soon, because I know he's got a lot of exciting things that he wants to talk about. And obviously
tune in, Gore. Yeah, we work with Gore. We just did a space with them was that yesterday? 2 days ago, last week.
Yeah, last week we did a space
last
with Gore.
week. Yeah. So big shout out to Gore. They're one of our sponsors.
Yeah, and obviously,
so let's pull this.
I was about to say, we're so excited about the Base ecosystem that we're actually launching our own community meme coin. I guess you could call it. Yeah. So
make sure y'all follow. It's Grim Reaper, bringing death to the competition, 1 meme at a time. Okay?
Yeah, if you see that meme was, I feel like I've always seen it as a meme coin starts to climb the ranks, and so that's our goal. Is we're gonna launch the Reaper, and the Reaper is coming for that #1 meme coin spot on Base. If you want to contribute, we do have a crowdfund going on with the Party DAO. So this is a unique application built on Base where people can crowdfund a launch, and the amount you contribute would get proportionally distributed back to you in the Reaper coin. You can go on our Warpcast channel, which is just /Grim Reaper. You can check out the Twitter. It has all the tokenomics there. And this is going to be a fair launch. It's going to be a fun launch. We're a very public and open people. So, we're not trying to rug anybody or do anything weird.
Our face is here every week.
Yeah, we're here to have some fun in Base. So join us for this ride. Follow us on Warpcast. Obviously, both of us, see Will and Crypto for Change, if you're in the Base ecosystem. And, we're gonna have a lot of fun. I think the bull market is really, we're just about to hit that escape velocity. You knew there were going to be some choppiness when the market started getting close to new all-time highs. Obviously, Bitcoin sitting at new all-time highs. So this is to be expected, but the dips that we're seeing now are the dips for buying. I know everybody was buying dips in the bear, but hey, you got to be able to buy some of these dips in the bull, because it gets violent and it moves fast. And we've seen that. Like literally, Velo is rose like another 8% just while we were just talking during this show. And I hope Velodrome catches up to Aerodrome and gets to $2. That's what I want to say.
Hey, and don't sleep on Moonwell either. Do not sleep.
That one, that one is, do your due diligence on Well, not financial advice, but Well is another one that, like I said, it's got the Coinbase connection. So I was surprised when Coinbase assets, announced their latest listing. I was expecting it to be Well, because Well's already been mooning into it, but still not yet. But I believe it's going to be happening soon, and I'm bullish on that, and maybe even getting that following tweet the coming weeks of Coinbase Ventures getting behind it to really push the TVL, the USD volume, all the liquidity into Base to really bring out the guns, and who knows, maybe we will see Aerodrome as the top decentralized exchange in crypto. Really, I
wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be, and that's mainly because, like I said, I see in Base chain, what I see is what Binance was, or Binance Smart Chain was with Binance. Like, it just makes sense to me, and that's why I'm hedging a lot of my bets there.
Yes. So big shout out to everyone who tapped in, chatting the whole episode. Thank you again, Alexander. This is episode 100. We've been at this for about 2 years, maybe a little more actually. And we going up. So again, Jesse, Moonwell, the rest of y'all, let's get you on this show and introduce you to our audience, and we all can learn and help this space grow some more. Again, till next week, y'all, episode 101. We will see you then.
See you, everybody.